Miss Gibson. Tonight we will be discussing critical thinking, and without further ado, let's get started. It's not going to be long tonight, I don't think. My slides aren't as long this week. Critical thinking. I will say good evening from Dr. King, and as with every week, I have to introduce to you who I am. And personally, I am a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas. I have lived in the, whoa, I'm not screen sharing, am I? My apologies. Hold on. There we go. Now we're screen sharing. Hey, Makia. Was that Makia? I saw that asked to come in. My apologies. I had started my presentation without actually screen sharing. So let's start this back over. And do me a favor, for everyone that's watching, please type your name in the chat box so I can take attendance, please. And before we finish, I will take a screenshot so I know everybody that was in my presentation. I have some new people. Who is this coming in from 800 link? That should be me, but we'll see. All right, good evening, Dr. King. Personally, I am a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas. I have lived in the 800 link community for 18 years, and I am a wife and a mother. Educationally, I graduated from Duncanville High School in 1990. I have an associate's degree in liberal arts from El Centro College, a bachelor's degree in psychology, degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix, and an education doctorate in sports management from North Central University. I consider myself a servant leader, so those roles, I have 25 plus years working in corporate America in various industries, 12 years of working in higher education, almost 13 actually, teaching business management, leadership, human resources, social sciences, humanities, motivation, and professional development. Also, almost a 13-year grassroots girls basketball coach for the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. 12 years working as a parent volunteer for Duncanville ISD. I have served as president and vice president of the PTA. I've done various things, just around the area. I've served in various roles for various sports leagues in the Metroplex. And I am currently a volunteer deputy registrar for the Dallas County Election Department, and recently just found out that I will be a poll technician for the election day. I'll be going around to the different poll locations and making sure that their equipment is functioning. Okay, and I'm pretty excited about that. For this week, what TI Communities Pillars does this presentation focus on? As mostly with every week, it's going to be education as well as community building. And then who does this presentation benefit? This presentation will benefit anyone looking to enhance their thinking skills from simple to complex. It's for someone who wants to question why things happen and find solutions to complex problems and issues. This presentation is for those who want to see beyond what is in front of them to make the world a better place, be it in life, in the classroom, or within their careers. This is a presentation for those who question everything and does not take anything at face value. So if you like to question, I always want to know why. I have kids that I always want to know why, always asking, but why is this? Why is that? This is for you. Let's see, who do we have in the chat? I have Makia. Gotcha, Jess. No worries. But thank you for joining. And then we have Sheila. And so let me get the link. We're doing a poll everywhere again this week. And so my question this week, and give me just a second, let me, I need to get I didn't give you guys the link. Hold on, let me pull up the chat box. I forgot to post a link to poll everywhere. So you're going to go to www.pollev.com/bkingedd741. Let me type it where the link will just come up. All right, everybody click that link. And this week's question is, critical thinking means. So what does critical thinking mean to you? And you can type, as we do every week, as many responses as you want. There are no wrong answers. This is your opinion. When someone says critical thinking to you, you need to think critically, or we need to focus on as a society thinking critically, or you're in classroom and your teacher tells you that you need to apply critical thinking, that's you, Sheila, critical thinking to your work. What does critical thinking mean to you? So I have my brain is hurting. I'm pretty sure I know who typed that one. And then we have any more? Thinking outside the norm. That is absolutely true. Anything else? Keep typing, and once again, I'll come back close to the end of the presentation and see what we have. Like I said, you can type more than one. There's, you don't have to do just one and hit enter. Think of things as they come to you as I'm going through the presentation and add them to the poll, and we'll come back at the end and see what they are, see what the responses were. And so then I have found a great quote that will work really good for this week's presentation, and it's the great majority of men and women in ordinary times pass through life without ever contemplating or criticizing as a whole either their own conditions or those of the world at large. And basically that just means most people just simply think, simple thinking. They don't question anything. They take stuff for face value. They never wonder and question why things are the way they are. And the reason being is because a lot of people simply have not learned to master critical thinking. We are all born with the inherent means to think. Everybody is, regardless of who you are, no matter whether there is something wrong with you, you're sick or not. Everybody has the means to think. But critical thinking is actually something that has to be taught and something that has to be learned. So the simple definition for critical thinking is defined as thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. That's the simple basic dictionary.com definition. But the more complex definition from the Foundation for Critical Thinking defines critical thinking as the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and or evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action. In its exemplary form, its highest form, it is based on universal intellectual values that transcend subject matter divisions, which would be clarity, accuracy, precision, consistency, relevance, sound evidence, good reasons, depth, breadth, and fairness. So, what does critical thinking mean? Clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence thinking. That is the Foundation for Critical Thinking. That is their critically thought up definition. And then critical thinking incorporates a family of the following modes of thinking, which is scientific thinking or the scientific method, which we have all been taught at some point, if not more than once in our life. Mathematical thinking, historical thinking, anthropological thinking, economic thinking, moral thinking, and philosophical thinking. And at some point in our lives, we have all done all of these. It's every day. We don't think, if I'm thinking something, what type of thinking am I doing? At some point in your life, all of these modes of thinking you will do, and sometimes all in one day. It just depends on what you're doing. And so let's give an example of simple thinking. Simple thinking is just what we do every day versus critically thinking or thinking critically, however you want to say it. So simple thinking, that's just the ability to produce thoughts, and we all do. Unless there is something neurologically wrong with you, we all have the ability to produce thoughts. Honestly, it really doesn't matter if there's something neurological wrong with you. Sheila, did you go away? Thinking critically is just thinking is just what we do. So an example of thinking will be, what do I want for breakfast? Bacon. I want bacon. Simple thought. I'm hungry. I want breakfast. What do I want? Bacon. But if you critically think, which is thinking about thinking, a deeper form of thinking about a particular issue or situation before actually deciding and acting, ask yourself the same question: what do I want for breakfast? To critically think, now you're going to say, how much time do I have to eat breakfast? What time is it? How long does it take me to get to work? Do I have time for breakfast? Do I have breakfast food in the refrigerator? Do I even have bacon in the refrigerator? Do I have some eggs? Do I have waffles? Can I make some toast? Do I specifically have bacon in the refrigerator? What type of bacon is it? Is bacon healthy for me? Do I eat bacon? What's my cholesterol level? Now, do I want cereal? That's critically thinking. Simple thinking, I just want bacon. Critical thinking, you're going to ask yourself 1,000 questions before you decide that bacon may not even be what you want. Or you can ask yourself all of those things and still say, bacon, I want bacon. You know, that's the difference between simple thinking and critically thinking. And so critical thinking, where it started and how it should be applied. So just a basic short rundown of historically how critical thinking started. It is rooted in the intellectual thoughts of Socrates, who was known for questioning everything and asking very deep questions that made a person think. So if you know anything about Socrates, Socrates was the one, I don't care if you read anything by Socrates, it always makes your head hurt. He just asked so many questions. He was so, you want to say ahead of his time, but I'm not going to even say he was ahead of his time. I would just say that he was more intellectual than most people in his time. But Socratic thinking for the Western world, and when I say the Western world, that's the United States, this part of, you know, of the globe, you know, not Europe, not Asia, Western world, everything, all the United States, South America, North America, everything, we're considered the Western world. So Socratic thinking has become the standard for highly civilized Western educated minds. And highly civilized is just basically another way of saying higher order thinking. And when we are introduced to this, educators or teachers will or should introduce students to critical thinking in primary school, which is elementary school, with inquisitory questions while teaching. So instead of just, you know, and most teachers do this, they just do it. It's second, you know, like I said, you're taught to do it, but once you do it, it becomes things. So instead of just teaching kids colors or ABCs, you start to teach them, well, what color is an apple? What letter does apple start with? You know, those are all inquisitory questions. So you start with simple, just short, sweet questions at elementary school, and then you progress. So by the time students get to, depending on what grade middle school starts for your district, I'll roughly say anywhere between 5th and 6th grade, because some schools 5th and 6th grade are intermediate, just like here in Duncanville. Some schools 5th grade starts junior high or middle school. So once they get past elementary, then the first steps to critical thinking mastery after being introduced to it should be fostered in daily teaching methods in secondary schools, which are middle, and by using Bloom's taxonomy. You will use that both in middle and high school. And Bloom taxonomy is basically a list of different types of wording and questioning. And we'll see a slide on that later on in the presentation. But this is where we start to introduce into Bloom's taxonomy and some simple Socratic questioning. But by the time you get to college or your child gets to college, that's where applying critical thinking teaching methods. So professors and instructors should be using Socratic questioning and Bloom taxonomy in the way that they lecture and present their material. And then that should be the expected way to teach at the collegiate level. And I'm required to do that with my students. I mean, I have a list of those. You know, everything's not stored up here. I mean, I know it, but I always want to make sure that I have everything at hand when I need it. So I have a list of questions that will be considered, Socratic questions. I am tripping tonight. And I have a list of different types of wording and things that you would use as far as applying Bloom's taxonomy when I'm teaching. So at the collegiate level, students should now be going into advanced mastery. You know, now, you know, you're mastering it in junior high school and high school, but now once you're in college, you're now advanced mastery of critically thinking, and you will be expected as a student to apply critical thinking skills when you're doing your assignments, when you're taking notes, working on projects, doing whatever you're doing. Critical thinking is a must at the collegiate level. And so the elements of critical thinking are gathering relevant information. And this could be done, I mean, even when you're just doing things just normal, you know, it's gathering information and then evaluating that information, asking questions of the information that you gathered and evaluated. And then you're going to assess any biases or unsubstantiated assumptions, and common layman's term, stereotyping. You know, you start to assess how you feel. What are your thoughts on that? You know, are these biases, are these stereotypes, or are these facts? You know, and then you start to infer about that information and start filling in gaps of where missing information is. Then you use abstract ideas to interpret that information. You formulate new ideas. Then you start weighing different ideas against each other. When you do that, you start coming up with reaching well-reasoned conclusions, you know, and then you start to consider alternative possibilities to those conclusions. you know, different plans, plan A, plan B, plan C, you know, that's alternative possibilities. And then you test those conclusions and you start seeing some of this stuff and you start thinking, hey, that's the scientific method. That's pretty much what it is. Come up with a theory, gather data, test that data, and then you start to look and read and understand that data and determine whether or not your theory is correct or it's not. And so that's what testing conclusions are. And then you verify through evidence and arguments support the conclusions. That's all, you know, a basic, simple way of applying the scientific method. That's where scientific thinking comes in with all of this. Hey, Sierra, do me a favor and type your name in the chat box for me, please. And so the basic critical thinking skills. And I told you guys, we're almost halfway through with this presentation. It's not going to be very long tonight because critical thinking it's a good thing to have, but it doesn't take a lot to learn. It's just sometimes people have never been introduced to this. And so I'm introducing you. If you haven't heard of critical thinking, and at this point you should have, I'm just going through, and this is probably a refresher course for everybody that's here right now. But the basic level of basic skills of critical thinking, the just very basic foundational level, is to first analyze and break that information down into parts. So you learn something, you know, in school, you can do this in every class, Sierra and Makia. You're going to analyze the information broken down into parts. Remember the whole SQ3R method that we were talking about last week, learning how to study? That's where analyzing that comes in, especially when you're studying and doing homework. And then you infer, you start figuring something out through assumptions and ideas. That's where you know, the whole biases and all that type of stuff. Is this information fact, or is this information that I've learned through stereotyping, you know, things like that. Then you start to evaluate that information, judge the value of who gave you that information. When you're in classroom, especially when you get to college, the one thing that you will learn, and for those of us that have already been to college, the one thing you will learn is that you always value the source of where you got that information. In normal world, we always say, who told you that? Same thing, because that source of information is going to determine how credible and how strong that information is that you have. So the credibility, if somebody that lies all the time tells you something, the first thing you're going to do is doubt that judgment. Doubt the information they gave you, doubt anything coming out of their mouth is true. Same thing when you're on the internet and reading books, and that's why, like, when you do write papers and things like that, your teachers are going to tell you to understand peer-reviewed sources of information. Don't just go out on the internet. Like I always tell my students, do not use Wikipedia. Even though Wikipedia tends to be factual information, anybody can change that information. So if you're ever in a class, don't ever use as a source of reference ever, and definitely not in college. You always judge the source of where that information came from. So like when you're in class, or even when you're talking to people, remember when I told you guys a while back that Bridget King and Bridget King EDD, people are gonna take that information. If Bridget just says it, hey, that's just Bridget saying it. But if Dr. King says it, that's different. And unfortunately, we live in a society where Dr. King is going to be listened to more than Bridget will be. So sometimes, you know, having alphabets behind your name is a wonderful thing. It's going to give you that credibility. It gives you that value. Your word becomes stronger. People start to listen to you. That's just information. Always refer and value and question the source of where you are obtaining information from. And then once you evaluate that information, you start to interpret it, understanding the significance or the meaning of it. What does this mean? What does this information that I have mean? If I'm in math, you know, you learn in basic math that 1 + 1 = 2, right? I've used this example a lot of times. But when you get to college algebra, 1 + 1 = 1. And it's going to completely screw your entire head up when you get to college, because you're going to be like, wait, what? So it's just like when you start doing higher order thinking, higher order learning, higher order reasoning, you start to interpret things a different way. And it's because one thing is going on. Your brain is starting to get more information. It's starting to rewire itself because it's learning new information, and you're starting to mature, and you're starting to get higher order thinking, critical thinking. And so then you start to generate new information. So when you start learning new stuff, you start, you know, let's talk about like baking cookies. We all have had chocolate cookies in our life, chocolate chip cookies, unless you're allergic to chocolate. And so you say, okay, basic chocolate chip cookie, chocolate chips in it. Well, now you start to produce information. Now you start like, what's in, what are the ingredients to this chocolate chip cookie? What type of chocolate chips are these? Are these white chocolate? Are they melted chocolate? Are they dark chocolate? What type of wheat did you use to make these cookies? I'm what's the new thing everybody's allergic to now? What is it called, you guys? Everybody can't eat it. And they start breaking out, and they can't put it in bread and all of that stuff now, so you start asking what type of wheat, people are lactose intolerant, so what type of milk did you put in here? Did you use dairy milk, or did you use almond milk? So you start to generate all of these gluten. Thank you, Sheila, because I could not remember it. You start asking yourself, are these cookies gluten-free? It's no longer just a simple chocolate chip cookie. Now it's gluten-free chocolate chip cookie made with, homogenized milk or 2% milk, or it was made with almond milk for those that can't have soy milk. So, it's just like, it goes from being a simple chocolate chip cookie to now chocolate chip cookie that has a million different ways that a chocolate chip cookie can now be baked in. So you start to learn all this information, and you start to generate new information. You start to generate new ideas. Do cookies have to be baked? Now you start seeing recipes for non-baked cookies. I don't even understand how that works. Never had one. I think I take that a lot back. I think I've tried to eat it one time, and it was too dense, and no. But then you start thinking of new ways of doing things, like I just sat here and discussed for the last 2 or 3 minutes, how can I, what other ingredients can I put in a cookie? Do cookies have to have eggs in them? It's just, nothing becomes simple anymore once you start to critically think. You start to question everything. Go buy a TV and have fun with that. There are 1,000 TVs, smart TVs, TVs that come with Roku, TVs that come with Apple TV. TVs are no longer just TVs anymore. 1K, they're 65-inch, they're 100-inch, so all of that is somebody who has sat back and critically thought about different ways that they can create TVs and how they can sell them. And then the reasoning, you create an argument through logical steps. Now there's an argument for why we need to create non-gluten cookies, because people are allergic to gluten now. There are ways that, there's a justification that cookies can now have macadamia nuts in them, so when you start to think critically and start to apply critical thinking, you go from simple thinking to I want a chocolate chip cookie to now I want a chocolate chip cookie with white chocolate chips with macadamia nuts with non-gluten wheat, and I need it non-baked. See the difference? It's fun, but that's when your brain starts to hurt. So now we started talking about the Socratic method, and I talked about that earlier. Remember, when you get to college, this is expected of you, but the Socratic method is actually something that we do all the time. And hey, Tori, we do it all the time, and we don't realize that we're doing it because it just becomes everyday thinking. Tori, do me a favor and type your name in the chat box for me, please, ma'am. And so with Socratic method, this is not societal thinking. This is not community thinking. The Socratic method is basically you having dialogues. Using the Socratic method is actually just having a conversation with someone else. If you've ever been to a therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever, whatever you want to call them, they all talk to you using the Socratic method. They ask you specific questions. The first thing they ask you, how are you doing today? They start out with something simple, and based on your responses, the questions get a little more general in terms. Lord, I've turned on my series some type of way. But Socratically thinking and using the Socratic method and using Socratic questioning, you go from general questions to more specific, and therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists, however you want to call them, advisors, they all pretty much do the same thing. They all use Socratic questioning to help you figure out you. So when you start to master critical thinking, the basic core inner version of you is where Socratic questioning comes in. It starts to ask you things that you may not even want to get into. You start to remember things that you may have suppressed, or, especially if something goes wrong. Therapists use this a lot with kids and people that have gone through traumatic experiences. They question you to try to pull out stuff. But, when you start thinking about your career, when people ask you, what do you want to be 5 years from now? Somebody in college, well, I want to be a doctor. Well, that's simple thinking. What type of doctor do you want to be? Well, I want to be a baby doctor. Well, what exactly is a baby doctor? as a pediatrician? Do you want to deliver babies? Because that's no longer a pediatrician, that's an obstetrician gynecologist. You know, where do you want to, you know, be an obstetrician gynecologist at? You know, so it's hard. You know, the questions get a lot more specific. You know, I want to buy a pair of tennis shoes. Or what type of tennis shoes do you want? I want a pair of Nikes. Come on now. What kind of Nikes do you want? I want the new LeBrons. Come on now. Which LeBrons do you want? So it gets more specific, but you're digging within yourself. That's the Socratic method. That's when you have a really good teacher, and I hate to say this, but the difference between really good educators and educators that went in for the money, that went into teaching for the money, they are very good, passionate teachers use the Socratic method when they teach. They're not just generalized, and there's a difference between teaching and facilitating. Most teachers that go into it for the money are facilitators. They're not technically teachers. They're using a cookie cutter curriculum, but that's all they're doing. They haven't taken the time to research that information to make sure that they're giving you the best of it. And teachers who are really passionate, they want to be teachers from day one, or they went into teaching for the paycheck and realized that they actually love what they do and have developed a passion for what they do. They start Socratically teaching. They start using the Socratic method, and when they talk to their students, they start questioning themselves on how they want to deliver their lectures. You know, I was talking to my daughter earlier, and I was explaining to her that when I do my presentations for you guys, it mentally drains me because I want to give you the best of me. That's because I've spent days Socratically thinking about what I want to do for my presentation. When I create my presentations, I'm thinking about what information I want to present to you, what order I want to present it in. That stuff is mentally draining, but it's who I am. I'm a perfectionist. So the very self method and core of me uses the Socratic method for myself, so I can use it for you guys, so I can bring you the best presentation possible. On the flip side, and on the other end of the spectrum, we have Bloom's taxonomy, and this is teaching. This is teaching large scale. We're not just focusing on you, or I'm not just focusing on Sheila, or just focusing on Tori when I'm talking. Bloom's taxonomy, you're focusing on the whole class, because now you're trying to get everybody. Bloom's taxonomy, if we actually go back to the previous slide, Bloom's taxonomy is where community and society comes in. Socratic method comes into self, community and society. That's Bloom's taxonomy. So now we're at the societal level and the community level. And so with Bloom's taxonomy, if you ever heard of anything, and I've discussed this in a previous presentation about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's where at the very bottom level, if you take care of the basic level of having food, having shelter, having clothes, having shoes, you move up the triangle. And it's kind of like, and actually I've seen the Maslow hierarchy of need triangle, looks just like this. It's applied with that information. But where remember is at the bottom, that's the basic needs. And you move all the way up until you get to a level of what's called self-actualization. Self-actualization is the equivalent to Socratic thinking. All works together. So with Bloom's taxonomy, the very basics, you're in elementary school, the very first thing that we learn to do is memorize information. We learn to memorize our colors. We learn to memorize and learn about our ABCs. And we learn that by singing songs and stuff like that. You start to memorize numbers. We all know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the order of numbers. You don't learn it 5, 3, 2, 1, 7, 8. We memorize and learn it. Very basics. Remember, recall facts. Then you move up to understanding. So now you start to take those facts and that stuff that you memorized, and then you start to describe it and explain it and get a better understanding of it. So let's say color red. We learn elementary school, pre-K, first grade, kindergarten, that the color is red. Now you start to understand that red comes in different shades. You have bright red, dark red, burgundy. You know, you can mix red with other colors and come up with other colors. You know, so you start to understand and start to get a more advanced knowledge. Then you start to apply that red. So now I'm out buying a shirt. I have this color shirt, but I need some shoes this color. So now I'm going to go to the shoe store and I got to find some shoes. So you start to apply the color red. I have a red shirt on, or let's say I have a blue shirt on like I have on now. I have a dark blue shirt on, a royal blue, depending on who you talk to. So now I need some shoes to match my royal blue shirt. So I'm not going to just go to the shoe store and find any color blue. I've got to find a color blue that matches my shirt. That's when you start to apply the knowledge of understanding colors. Then you analyze and you start to differentiate and organize and compare and contrast. There are different shades of blue. You have sky blue, dark blue, blue, black, what they call it, azure, cyan. Blue comes in 1,000 different shades now. So you go from just applying the color blue to now analyzing and comparing. You have this color blue. Can you guys see that? You have this color blue, you have this color blue. So you start to analyze and differentiate it. Now you start taking the color blue and now you're an interior decorator. So you start to teach people how to use colors in their homes. That's how you do that. So then you start to evaluate and justify and stand a decision. Why do I pick royal blue over sky blue for this rug, or this paint on the wall, or this comforter that I'm going to buy, or this couch that I'm going to buy? So you start to evaluate the different shades of blue to determine and come up with an argument for why you want to buy this color couch versus this color couch. And then take all of that and you start to create. Create is that higher order thinking. So now I have I have my blue couch. I picked out some wonderfully, some drapes, or an ottoman. But guess what? The ottoman is in blue. Oh, why? Because gold and blue kind of go well together. So you start creating and designing and developing and coming up and just any word that you want to use on that list. But you start to take that color blue, and now you're an interior decorator. You're designing someone's home, and you're like, okay, we have this wonderful dark blue or royal blue ottoman, and now I'm going to look at some gold drapes or a throw pillow. So it's like you can take the most simple thing as a color and understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create, and just understand how blue is not just blue. Red is not just red. It's all in how you think about it. And that's what critical thinking is. You're going from simple, I want bacon, to now, do I want turkey bacon? Do I want thick cut bacon? Do I want bacon that's on sale? What brand of bacon do I want? It's just a higher order thinking. And it's not hard to do. It's just that we have to learn to do it, because where simple is considered uneducated. Quiet as it's kept, and it's really not quiet. Think about it. Once again, people may not listen to Bridget King, but they're going to listen to Dr. King. They may not listen to Bridget, but they'll listen to Coach Bree. They may not listen to Bridget, but they'll listen to Professor King. That's just the difference. It's all in what your mind values. And that's why we have to be very careful about the information that we learn and who gives it to us, where we learn from, the things that we listen to. And yeah, life is simple in certain ways. You just want to, just live life and have fun. But there's so much that's going on that just having fun is not just having fun anymore. Now you have to, with COVID, we can't even just go to a simple restaurant and just sit out and have fun anymore, because you can catch COVID and die. So it's take COVID. We understand what's going on with COVID, but people are not applying critical thinking to a mass scale. And that's why our numbers are increasing again when they should be dropping. You can't get people to put on a mask when the simple thing is, it's not perfect. Nothing is going to completely stop COVID, but there are measures in place to prevent you from catching COVID. So you can say something simple like wear a mask. Well, why should I wear a mask? Well, the mask, if you have a good filter and have a good mask on, it's going to catch the majority of the particles that are in the air, and you won't inhale them into your nose and mouth, which is where most people are contracting COVID at, especially in their nasal cavity. Well, why is that? So it's like we can take this and go 1,000 ways with it, but you learn to take simple thinking and start to ask questions. Don't take anything for face value. And it's funny when kids are little, and it's always, but mommy, why? Or but daddy, why? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And the first thing we want to say is stop asking so many questions. even though it drives us crazy, we need to foster that in children, because when we continue to stifle kids and tell them to stop questioning things, they grow up to be people who don't question anything, and they start to just take everything at face value, and that's not what we want. We want people to question things and ask questions and wonder why and try to find solutions and come up with new solutions. You can even take a current thing. That's pretty much the difference between an EDD and a PhD. My education doctorate just means I found a current issue and took an old method, but I found a new way of solving it. I just took a problem that is already in existence, and I found a new way with information that is already in existence to solve that problem a new way, just using existing information. A PhD, they take an existing problem and they have to come up with a resolution that has never before been thought of. And the difference, people can say, well, PhDs are academics. I'm not even caring about that. Very basic understanding of the difference between an education doctorate and a doctor of philosophy. Education doctorates find new ways with information already in existence to solve problems. PhDs have to come up with completely new ways of solving problems that are in existence that have never before been thought of or used. That's pretty much how that goes. Exactly, Tori. So when we think about this, like I said, critical thinking, we want to foster that as early as we can in kids. And so just to summarize everything, I told you guys this presentation was not going to be long today, and nobody log out before, because I need to get a kit picture of y'all, and because I actually have a good number of people on here tonight. Thank you so much. I can't see everybody, so when I end my presentation, I'm going to pull up the big box, so I need nobody to log out. Not even you, Jess, working on your stuff. But the summary, critical thinking is higher order thinking. It is going from simple thinking to I want bacon to questioning what type of bacon is out there. It is rooted in the lessons of Socrates. Like I said, Socrates is someone who was, I say was way ahead of his time, but I wouldn't necessarily just say that. I mean, I just think he was. But Socrates questioned everything. He didn't take nothing for face value, anything. And then it's considered the standard for Western world thinking. You learn to think, the more that you question everything, that's higher order thinking. You start to gain respect. People start to call you experts. That's where subject matter experts come in. You find a topic, learn everything on it, you earn a PhD. All goes together. Critical thinking should be a lifetime educational skill, learned, mastered, and advanced mastery that should be introduced in elementary schools. I honestly didn't even learn about critical thinking until I got to college. And I really think that was a failure on every teacher that I had from elementary school to high school. I had never heard of critical thinking until I got to college. I don't want that for these kids. I don't want that for my child. And we actually have some really good teachers now. And so, educators, I hate to just call people teachers because educator encompasses so much more. But if you are a really good educator, or you know anybody that's a really good educator, they know to start introducing critical thinking as young as kids can start thinking and understanding. And so then the basic skills of critical thinking are analyzing, inferring, evaluating, interpreting, generating, and reasoning with information. You're not just taking it for face value. You're taking that information, breaking it down, questioning, looking at the different parts, taking out the stereotypes, taking out the biases, trying to figure out the facts within it, and generating new reasoning and coming up with new questions. Anytime a really good person will tell you that to come up with is to question what you already have. And when you even find a solution for that, you question that, and you find another solution and you question that. So you can keep going and going and going and going and coming up with new ways to understand anything. And so then the two ways to master one's ability to critically think is to use both the Socratic method for individual self-learning, and then Bloom's taxonomy is teaching the world and, teaching our community and things of that nature. And if y'all have any questions, as I say every week, if you have any questions, type them in the chat box, and or any statements that you want to make, type them in the chat box and I will address them, as we go through. But for those that were not here initially, Tori, because we're going to go back to the poll. I posted a poll earlier, Tori, and if you look in the chat box, I just posted the link. Uh-oh, Sister Thompson is here. Hey, Sister Thompson, you just missed my presentation. We're at the end, but we're going back because I want to go And so we're going back to the poll on critical thinking. And Sister Thompson didn't see the slide, didn't see the link. So I'm posting the link again. So everybody go back to the link. And when you hear the words critical thinking, type in responses and tell me what that means to you. I need more than 2 responses. Work with me on this. Everybody, give me some answers right now. When you hear critical thinking, what does that mean to you? The ability to analyze logic. Absolutely. Give me some more. We got any more? Sierra, you have any? Your brain hurt. I know it is, Sister Thompson. Critical thinking. Sierra, what do you think critical thinking is? Sheila, what do you think critical thinking is? Sheila, were those? I think you gave us your answers though. Tori, what do you think critical thinking is? Jessica, Zuniga, what do you think critical thinking is? Thinking on a deeper level. Absolutely. Higher order thinking. That's what it is. We got any more coming through? Does anybody have any questions? More than just a simple answer. Absolutely. Bacon. Nope. Do you want turkey bacon, thick bacon, bacon on sale, bacon that's expensive? Brand name bacon. Bacon isn't just bacon anymore. Chocolate chip cookie. Gluten-free chocolate chip cookie. What type of chocolate chips? Dark chocolate, melted chocolate, white chocolate. Do you want macadamia nuts? You want a big cookie, small cookie? Do you want a non-baked cookie? The ability to investigate like a thesis or a hypothesis. Absolutely. I love that answer. Yes. I gave somebody the idea to want some bacon. These are wonderful answers. And yes, this is basically, and think about it. You critically thought to come up with these answers. So my goal has been accomplished for today. So, you know what, Tori? This is the discussion question. Tori said she felt like she was back in school again. I gave my 2 responses. When you go to college, especially Sierra and Makia, y'all are going to do what's called discussion questions, and your instructor is basically going to definitely tell you that you have to have a minimum of 2 responses per discussion question. Me and Tori know that so well. Yes, Tori, you gave us your 2 responses. Thank you so much. I do enjoy these answers. Is there any other slides? Anybody? We have some time left. I told y'all this presentation this week was not going to be that long because critical thinking is a wonderful thing, but it doesn't apply it, you know. So let's go back to the slides. Is there any information that anybody wants me to touch on again? I can always go back until you reach you that super long definition of what critical thinking is, but I don't want to. You know, but just the difference, you know, the one thing that I do want to make sure that I touch on before we get to the end of this is the difference between Socratic thinking and the Socratic method of critical thinking and Bloom's taxonomy. Remember that the Socratic method of critical thinking is about you. It's getting to the core of why you think the way you do. Do you need some things that you think about? You know, as you grow and as you mature, we start to develop certain thoughts about certain things, and it can be anything. You know, me, I've always loved lemon custard ice cream. Simple pull out the air example. I've loved lemon custard ice cream my entire life. Didn't have a clue until my mother said it one day that she ate lemon custard ice cream when she was pregnant with me. Had no clue. I was like 30 when I found that out. I just knew I loved lemon custard ice cream. So I don't know, one day I was just talking about wanting some lemon custard ice cream in my mom's, and she was going, you know, I used to eat lemon custard ice cream when I was pregnant with you. Learn something about myself, just thinking out loud, Socratically thinking and questioning out loud, that I learned that the reason that I like lemon custard ice cream, or I love lemon custard ice cream, is my mother ate it when she was pregnant with me. Very interesting. So then you start to question, you know, when you eat things pregnant, do they really transform and transition like that, you know, at the molecular level to the baby, to where they come out and they say, I like lemon custard ice cream. See how deep I got with that in just 10 seconds? That's Socratic thinking. So then Bloom's taxonomy, I can go all the way with lemon custard ice cream with this, but I don't want to. But Yes, Tori, you remember I love lemon custard ice cream. That is my favorite all-time favorite ice cream. I love different ice creams, but you cannot miss me with lemon custard. You ever want to buy me a gift and have no clue what to buy me, go to Baskin Robbins and get me a pint or a gallon of lemon custard ice cream, and I will love you forever. I could be kidnapped with some lemon custard ice cream. No, I'm just playing. But Bloom's Taxonomy, we could take lemon custard ice cream and just, I can go just up the levels here, just like I did with the color blue and the color red. It's Socratic questioning asks you to, delve within yourself as to why you think the way you do and do the things you do, and maybe you need to change some things about yourself. All of that is maturing with life. Think of it as a career. Like I said, in high school, they ask you, what do you want to do for a career? Want to be a doctor. Well, what type of doctor do you want to be? How long do you think you have to go to school to be a doctor? What courses do you think you're going to take? There's so many ways that you can take Bloom's Taxonomy and use this in a classroom to help kids understand and absorb information more, instead of just giving them information and just staying at that remember and understand levels. Those are the basic levels of learning. We want to take kids and teach them information and go from remembering to creating new questions and new trains of thought and new ways of understanding things. So Bloom's Taxonomy, even when you're at home, when you're teaching your kids how to do something, use this. Don't just tell them, remember to add salt. We're going to make some spaghetti, and you're going to take some spaghetti noodles and you're going to warm up the sauce, and you may or may not use meat, or you may use meatballs. Teach them how to create different types of spaghetti. We're going to use spaghetti with some non-gluten-free wheat multi-grain spaghetti noodles with some pesto and cheese flavored. See what I'm saying? That's how you go from basic spaghetti to spaghetti. So Bloom's Taxonomy is a wonderful thing, and you can find information on Bloom's Taxonomy all over the internet. If you need information, email me or call me, and I can send you in that information, because I use it with my students in class. I try to use it with my daughter, and I love the things that my daughter has a wonderful brain, and I love the way she thinks. And it's so funny because she does some of this stuff with me, and I laugh. Because your kids start understanding, you start to see light bulbs go off. And I like to see that with my students. I have adult students that, like I said, I was in college before I learned about critical thinking, and I know I have some students that were as well. And I'm not saying it was me that taught it to them. I just know that they were not taught it anywhere else, and maybe didn't learn it till they got older as well, like myself. And so when you start to see light bulbs go off, even in adults, it is a wonderful thing. And as with anything, I always, give you my references. I don't want to plagiarize anybody's information, and if anybody want to find using this information, let me know. I always post my videos, so you can go back and get the references to any information. However, next week I am off. I, didn't realize that the month of October has 5 weeks in it. And so I'm required to do 4 presentations a month, 1 a week, and we actually have 5 weeks this month. So next week I am off. I do not have a presentation next Thursday, but Thursday, November 5th, which is the first Thursday and 2 days after Election Day, I am going to be doing a presentation on Leadership 101 and all of the information that we've learned for this is actually my 19th presentation, y'all. So all of the information that I presented in the last 18 and then including this 19th presentation, we are going to also discuss in Leadership 101, because it all works to make you a better leader. And then, as with anything, if anybody has any questions or anything for me, my contact information is 800-EDUCATOR-BRIDGET@TICommunities.com, or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com, Dr. Bridget King, EDD. And that is the end of my presentation. And everybody stand still. Nobody go anywhere. Let me take a picture, because I always forget to do this every week, and my boss will email me, you forgot to send me the picture. There we go. Does anybody have any questions on anything? We have about 10 minutes or 11 minutes. This has been wonderful. I'm glad everybody showed up tonight. Jessica is here. Jessica is, if you look at the screen, you see the 800 Link community. That's one of the other resident professionals. She's a resident educator as well. Her name is Jessica Zuniga. So Jessica is here today, and she's working on some information, but she's also, joined my presentation. And I'm glad. Thanks for coming, Jess. And then thank you, Tori. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you to my mom, Sister Thompson. Makia was here earlier, and I want to say thank you to her as well. Like I said, next week I'm off, so y'all are gonna miss this beautiful face next week. But I will be back the first Thursday in November, and we'll be back with Leadership 101. I want to say thank you, as I do every week. Thank you for spending your Thursday evening with me. You could have done anything else, but you chose to spend your Thursday with me. I appreciate it. I'm humbled. I'm grateful, and all of that. Thank you so much. We got 10 minutes left, but I'm going to give you your 10 minutes and say bye-bye, everybody. Love you. Oh, wait, stop. Before you leave, everybody, I forgot. Don't go anywhere. The survey. Did we miss anybody? Oh, I forgot Tori. I'll send it to her in an email. Survey. I just posted it. I'm glad I did that before everybody left. Did the survey post? Oh, that's the Tori. Hold on. I forgot to give everybody the survey this week. They're actually wanting to make sure everybody does the surveys, you know, to get, if y'all have any ideas on any topics or anything that you want me to cover. I'm not running out of topics, but you know, I'm just one person. If there's any information that you guys want me to do a presentation on, please put it in the survey response box in the I think it's the comments box down at the bottom. I can't remember. And let me know if there are so many topics that you guys want me to do and cover, so I can start adding on to it. I've done 19 presentations so far. I think I had 65 on my list, and I have 4 more coming for November. Well, actually 3. I don't think we worked the week of Thanksgiving, but please do the survey. I love the feedback. You know, the people at the corporate office love to read the feedback. You know, I've been told that I have some of the best turnouts, you know, even though people are not necessarily in my presentations live, they do go back and watch them. And I actually also get credit for that as well. And that's fine. You know, I love that you guys are here every week, but I love that other people choose, you know, they can watch it other times if they so choose. And so I'm glad that you do the surveys and they can see that you guys are enjoying everything that I'm presenting, and that's another reason for me to thank you. So with the link, if I'm going to end now, but if you need the link after I've ended, just text me or call me or email me and I'll send you that link in email. So now I'm going to say goodbye again. Love y'all. Bye-bye.